Hi folks, I'm Lyndsey Wray, otherwise known as UK Bid Writer. SMEs need to approach tendering for public or private sector commercial contracts in a different way to larger organisations. To really stand out from the competition and show off what makes your business the best choice for that contract, you need a specialist in SME tendering. In each episode of the UK Bid Writer podcast, I'll give you practical and effective, tried and tested information and advice on bid writing and bid management to help you win more tenders. Bit of a daft one today while I am busy building up the rest of this series in the background. Today, let's talk about how writing a bid is like baking a cake. It's all about the ingredients you use and what you do with your sprinkles. There sometimes comes a time, usually around a third of the way through writing a bid, when my customer looks at an early draft and starts to think, ooh, no, what have we done? What even is this? Now, they're looking at a document covered in yellow and green highlights, track changes, comment boxes, abruptly ended sentences, and placeholder gibberish. It's a mess. However, slowly but surely, between that draft and the next, the highlights disappear, the sentences are completed, the gibberish is replaced by actual factual words, and the comments, questions and requests for more information are knocked down one by one. At this point, the customer, mostly, very politely reassures me that yes, thankfully, it is all correct, but, it's just really, really dull. They worry that having answered all of the tender questions accurately and specifically, the focus on facts has taken the life out of the bid. They worry that any assessor reading the document would be asleep before they got past the executive summary. And they might be right. However, it's vital to construct a bid in a logical way, which means first focusing on those crucial elements of delivering to the specification that will score you the points you need to stay in the race, and then adding the unique who's and how's and when's and what's that demonstrate why your company can do it better. And then finally, adding the finishing touches that lift it up from a drab but factual tone to a compelling and interesting bid that scores highly in all areas. And following this logical process is always the way to go, regardless of whether you develop those first drafts with the help of a bid writer, through using an AI bot, or through your own blood, sweat, tears and sleepless nights. Right then, let's talk about cake. Your average cake, let's say a traditional Victoria sponge, absolutely has to contain certain vital ingredients, without which it would not be a Victoria sponge. Flour, butter, sugar, eggs, baking powder, also jam and cream, but you can't put them in until you've made the sponge itself. Now, the Victoria sponge is a damn fine thing and is pretty tasty as it is. But hey, we're out to impress here, and for this competition, a standard Vicky sandwich isn't going to stand out. These judges want something special, something to make them go wow. Something with depth and layers of interest. The simple sponge cake, though, forms the basis of a tremendous multitude of other tastier, more interesting, inventive and fancy cakes. You can change the quantities of eggs, butter, flour and so on to make it denser or lighter. There are unlimited things you can add to a sponge mix to make it stand out. You can add flavourings, chocolate, coffee, lemon maybe. You can add more ingredients, cherries, nuts, black pudding. These things are baked into the cake and make it fundamentally more appealing. And these are the things that make your cake different from the rest, your own unique recipe, or, if you like, your USPs. Once baked, your cake has A, become a cake, meaning yes, we can deliver what you need, and B, become your cake, meaning, and this is the way we do it. You can see where I'm heading here. Right, so now you have a very acceptable cake. It's structurally sound and it is also different to other cakes. It's got everything it needs to have, plus a few things that make it distinctive. It'll definitely score points with those fussy judges. Aha, but what if someone else brings in a Black Forest gatto? Well, we bring on the toppings. But first, a word from our sponsor. If you like what you've heard so far, head over to my website at ukbidwriter.com/coaching to find out more about my unique one-to-one or team coaching program. Through real-time coaching before, during and after your next live tender, and using a direct practice learning by doing methodology, you'll become a confident and successful bid writer. You'll benefit from ongoing support with phone and online mentoring throughout. From me, a successful bid professional with decades of experience. You'll learn how to improve your bid writing skills, understand tender questions, structure your answers effectively, optimise your internal processes, save time and relieve pressure, and produce high-scoring bids time after time. Let's get started today. Well, that sounds awesome. Anyway, back to the cake. So, as much as we eat with our eyes, an attractively filled and iced cake is generally more appealing than a plain one, we also read with our emotions, even hard-bitten tender assessors. So at this point, now you've got your basic bid nicely baked with all the facts in place, the final task is to persuade the assessors that your response is best. And presuming you have answered all of the questions to the fullest extent, that would be the correct quantities of your flour, your butter, your sugar and eggs, and explain how and why your company's way of delivering the product or service will meet the specification and add value and deliver benefits that others may not, and that's your flavour, your fruit, your nuts, chopped chips and whatnot, you should be well on your way to scoring the points you need to pass. But so will everyone else. To stretch this ridiculous analogy just a little bit more, the icing on the cake is just that. It's the little extras that take your bid just that step further, that make your bid just that little bit more appealing, and make the tendering authority want to find out more about you and want to work with your company over all the other bidders. To put it in plain terms, this is where you go back through your bid section by section, paragraph by paragraph, and enhance, enrich, improve and augment your basic facts and your USPs with persuasive reasoning, statements of confidence in your company, and further highlight those vital added value areas. And again, whether you got to this point with the help of a bid writer, with generative AI, or by you and your team just knocking information around between you, it's essential to spend this last little bit of effort and time to add those finishing touches and take your bid to its highest level. That said, at the same time, it is important not to go too far. Too much salesy persuasion can overshadow the fine balance of facts and USPs you've spent so long putting together. You don't want your carefully prepared cake to collapse under the weight of its own awesomeness. And in the end, the icing on your cake is there to add interest and appeal and make your bid stand out among your competition. But without the cake to put it on, it's all just sweet nothings. That's all for today. Many thanks for joining me on this episode of the UK Bid Writer podcast. If you'd like to know more about my feelings on cake, make sure to visit my website at ukbidwriter.com and subscribe to the show so you'll never miss a trick. Find me over on YouTube, where each episode is supported by accurate closed captions. Pop over there, let me know what other stuff you'd like to see from UK Bid Writer on the podcast or beyond. The link's in the show notes. And if you enjoyed this episode, it would be great if you could give it a rating on your preferred podcast platform, or just tell a friend or a colleague and spread the word. Don't forget, you can also contact me directly to talk about what your business needs most to win more contracts by emailing me at lyndsey@ukbidwriter.com, or to find me on the usual social channels, just search for UK Bid Writer. You've been listening to Lyndsey Wray, otherwise known as UK Bid Writer, offering specialist expertise for UK SMEs. I'm off for 11s. See you next time.